talk about is again something about examination tips. One of the biggest tips I can give you is do not use too many materials. Too many materials. Okay, if I have 5 books, I want to read all the 5 books. Then what happens? I spend 5x times usually. If I spend 1 hour in reading one book, it's not 1 hour, I know, but in 5 books, I'll spend 5 times. And then what happens is by the time you go there, you lose all your tempo. And many times the books are reading multiple books are about multiple approaches how to understand something that can become confusing. So don't read too many books. It doesn't help even if the books are good, perhaps. Don't ask me if the good books are good because I've not read them. What you want to do, I want you to decide, do you want to read or do you want to get certified? It does sound a little harsh, perhaps a little rude, but that is what is true. So I say, request you to stick to the book that or notes that we have shared with you. Okay, that is one thing. Another thing is, as I was just talking to Abhijit, I realized that it is not only Abhijit, all of you might need that tip. We are used to thinking about examination as something that tests our memory practically. Okay, theoretically, we say the examinations test our knowledge. But if you remember Surabhi's story yesterday, how she remembers an answer, I really doubt if the kids know the answer or if the kids know the words of the answer. It's a difference. Knowing the answer is understanding the answer, and knowing the words is only having a photocopy of those words in your memory, not necessarily you know. If you have heard any small child babbling, you will realize that sometimes the child is singing or copying some of the words the adults around the child are saying. If you have actually seen a parrot doing it, it's really that the words are there, the words have an image, the meaning is not there. I don't know if Surabhi does that, but then as a project manager, you don't have that liberty. Think about it. I always said, and I will always say that this examination is about finding out, judging whether you are a good project manager or not. So, who's a good project manager? A good project manager is someone who delivers well, who solves problems on the project, who gives good results. Now, if I'm saying who gives good results and who solves problems, do you have a liberty or can you do something like what I'm going to describe now? You have a problem on your project. Let's say your team is having a conflict. Then you say, I cannot solve this problem because it is out of syllabus. Anyone here who does that? You just can't do it. Why can't you do it? Because that is, you are supposed to deliver results. And that is what this examination tests. It doesn't test if you know the words. It does test if you know, if you understand and know the matter. So, many of the questions in the actual examination also, you will not find direct answer anywhere. You cannot say that I'll go to page number so and so of the PMBOK to find the answer. It might be there, it might not be there. Direct answer, if you ask me, very rarely there. Then why do you give references to your questions is what you might want to ask. It's not about getting the direct answer there. It is the concept which is around that page. So that's why I usually, when I quote PMBOK page number, I quote it for reference of that topic, not for the words. So anytime you want to relate those 35 tasks developed by PMI, the ECO is what I'm talking about. So ECO what that task means, managing conflicts. What does that task actually mean? You really don't have to understand what that task means. The task means, as a project manager, it is your responsibility to resolve all the conflicts. Then, wherever you see that in the notes, it is related to that task. Okay, there is no one-on-one relation. So one-on-one relation, when I talk about, I always remember Surabhi saying whether the answer is on the top of the page or middle of the page or bottom of the page. You don't get that those answers. The answers you have to relate to. What is the task? What does it mean? Not what are the words. What does it mean? And what does the note mean? So relating with practical examples, that is what is going to take you ahead. One more thing is, I said that yesterday and I'm going to say it every day till we finish the class. Regular studies, being committed. If you study regularly, you read regularly, you are recalling the matter again and again. It helps internalizing. How regularly? Absolutely regularly, every day, whatever happens. And I know that most of you are very busy, and it's easy for me to say whatever happens. But remember, I've been there, and I have done that just like you. I was also busy, so I know it's very difficult to take out time, but not impossible. If you feel that you really cannot take out time, it's impossible, talk to me one on one. I can help. I have solved this problem for many of my students. And the solution might not be what you want, the solution might not be what you like, but it's a perfectly valid solution. Okay. So for everyone, it might be different. So I cannot discuss it right now here. Like, okay, for everyone, where I can help you find a slot is something different. Yeah, about this, once again, I can tell you something is, I want you to shell out 90 minutes every day for studies. Finding out 90 minutes in a day, most of you will say it is possible if we have 25 and a half hours in a day. So in other words, you're saying that 1.5 hour that you are asking us to spare, if that is added to my day, then only I can do it. What I suggest is, break that down into 3 time slots. Half an hour time slot. One time slot you can easily get if you get up 30 minutes early. Okay, every day 30 minutes, half an hour is what I'm saying. I'm not saying you get up at 4:30 or you get up at whatever time that's not suitable for you. So half an hour early is, I think, doable. Then you have to look at slots like, if you are not driving but you're commuting to office and not in the local trains in Mumbai, yes, you can read. If you are in a bus, you can read. If you're going in a cab, you can read. Now, if you are going in the local, you might want to hear the videos, play them. I know you cannot watch them, just listen to that. That's also possible. So how to fit in half an hour slot is not something, I think, which is very difficult. If you cannot fit in 20 minutes slot, but ensure that you do it. And the last point that I want to share today is taking action against planning. Many of you decide, okay, yeah, want to or plan. I will study for 1.5 hour every day, as Vajanti is saying, from tomorrow. And then from tomorrow, I'll wake up 5 minutes early or half an hour early or whatever XYZ. I'll do these activities and whatever XYZ again. Tomorrow, It's always I'll start it tomorrow, because what I do is I need to collect my books. I need to have buy two notebooks, and I need to have pens. I don't have the stock right now, so I will start tomorrow. Or my friend has promised me a good book, so he's giving that book tomorrow, so I will start the day after. It doesn't help. This is what happens with everyone, including me. So I know that it happens. I'm going to start from tomorrow. One more thing happens is I'm collecting a lot of material. See, I might be showing you some presentations while we are talking. And actually, those presentations, what am I going to do with them? So if you ask me to share them, I will share them. But I have a question for you. You have to tell me when you are going to use it, when you are going to read it, and after reading you to confirm that you have read it. That's the only thing. In other words, I see a tendency of just collecting material. Total material collected with me does not make me get to the examination and pass it. Whatever material I study, only that material helps me pass. So I'm not against you collecting the material. You go collect whatever material you want to, keep it wherever you want to, but use that. Practically study that. That is where I see people not doing it. And one more thing is, when you tend to collect a lot of material and do not actually study, what you are doing is analysis paralysis. How I will do this, how to read this, how I should be sitting, where I should be facing. Get to the point, start working. That is what is going to take you ahead. Okay, some of it is very harsh, I know, but I want, as I said, do you remember my first message on WhatsApp? That's almost the only time I use WhatsApp, almost only time I use WhatsApp for the batches. So, one message I put where I have said, I want all of you to pass this examination by 30th of November. You will be able to do it, provided you follow what I'm telling you literally to the dot. Okay. So with that, we are ready to go to the book. If I remember something more, I'll talk about it as and when I remember. What is that on chat? Morning, Lakshmikant. So, yes, I remember saying that we'll start from point number 7. Just let me quickly see. Servant leader responsibilities is the topic there. Servant leaders, what do they actually do? So, the first thing that servant leaders do is facilitation. They facilitate the team's work. The servant leaders, give me a second, friends. Okay. From managing coordination for the project manager, the focus has shifted to facilitating collaboration. So for the team, they are not directing. They are not saying this is what is the topic that we will discuss. This is what is the work that we will discuss, or this is what is the work that you should be doing. What they do is they ensure that their team doesn't face any problems in the meeting. Whatever help the team wants from them, let's say there's a difficult topic, or let's say there's a technical help, and a facilitator is a technical person, or facilitator is not a technical person, but he can arrange technical help. The team will come up and ask for help. The facilitator should be there to provide that help. Servant leaders remove organizational impediments. I remember talking about this and talking about an example of a big, or one of the biggest, I should say, IT service companies where it happens. I did not say this yesterday. Like, okay, somebody joins and somebody needs to wait for 2 weeks to get the laptop and start working. So, how do you overcome such organizational impediments? How to overcome? Every person will have his or her own style. Somebody will say, okay, rather than breaking my head with those admin people who handle all this, what I will do is I will see if my team can work in shifts so that they can share whatever hardware they have. Somebody will say, I am aware that somebody joining from Monday, today is Friday. Let me start pushing the admin team right away. Let me see what is it that I have to, what permissions I have to arrange for them so that they will give the laptop immediately. Which one is right? Both of these approaches are right. It's for you to decide which is your approach. Servant leaders pave the way for others' contributions. So, what is that? They don't think about in this project what is that which is I am doing physically, which deliverables will have my name. If the customer looks at it, what the customer will say, this what did Vajanti do in these many deliverables? They don't get into that. The final result that everything was delivered successfully, obviously the credit goes to facilitator. So rather than thinking about how I will grow, if I think about how my team will grow, if my team grows, they do better efforts. If they do better efforts, they deliver better and they grow better. Again, if they deliver better, they grow better. And if they deliver better, I also grow. I grow in two ways actually. I start getting a name saying, okay, somebody who works with Vajanti always grows. If that is the name I get, there's no wonder that I also grow because I'm wanted by people because I can give results. That is what is a good facilitator who can be a good servant leader. Now, servant leader responsibilities that are here: educate stakeholders around why and how to be agile. It is possible that you need to educate your own management, especially when you are saying my team is capable of taking the work up by themselves, deciding by themselves. It might not be easily digestible in early stages of transformation into agile. So anytime this, if you talk about it practically, the facilitator needs to do again and again one training in agile or one workshop in agile does not help. For the first workshop you usually understand theory, but agile is a mindset, and for changing the mindset, drilling on it again and again is something that becomes helpful. This is the biggest challenge for the facilitator, that the facilitator is caught between two things. On the one, or rather three things. On the one hand, it is their own management. I'm working in a big company. My own management is not fully agile yet. So I'm getting pressure from that side. On the other hand, the customer also is not agile. They don't understand why do you need a PO full time. They want the deliverables. They want the quality. And if they realize why you need the PO, they would give. But that is the problem. And another problem with this is PO, if you technically see about it, PO has to be a senior person. Somebody who understands the market well, somebody who understands the product well, somebody who understands the customer well. Cannot be a junior person. Has to be a skilled and experienced person. Now, think of it from a big organization's perspective. How much time you can spare a highly experienced and skilled person? So it is their genuine problem. Okay, you are saying that our vice president should be involved full time on your project. Is that really practically possible? So that is where you need to get a functional person from the team side, vendor side, trained on product owners' activities. He should be a person who understands business well, all market well. When the work begins, he will start understanding the customer well. So that is your responsibility to identify such a person, to have him trained and ensure that he is fully dedicated to your project. So that's a pressure from that side. One more pressure side is your own team. Sometimes they do mistakes, sometimes they are also new to agile. So they may take up a lot of work, not able to deliver. They may take up only, I mean, maybe one or two stories, very little work, because they're worried, will we be able to deliver? So they are underperforming. So all of this pressure is there. For that matter, a project manager, here a facilitator, why does he get a salary? The best answer is मार खाने के लिए. So that is what is your first responsibility, is what you have to remember, though you cannot write that in PMI's examination and answers. Okay. So what do you do as a facilitator? You support the team through mentoring, encouragement, and support. So the statement strikes me as funny. Support the team by supporting them. So basically, you support the team. That's what it is trying to say. This is taken from the APG, Agile Practice Guide. Help the team with technical project management activities like quantitative risk analysis. See, if you look at agile projects, typically your team members would be people who understand how to complete the user stories. So technical skills in completion of the work they will have. You most probably will also have some testing people, some design people if your project is large. But they understand all of them together. They understand technically how to deliver. Other management aspects they're not trained in. And even if it is agile project, risks are going to be there. They may not have exposure to risk analysis. You will have to help. So risk analysis is one example. Whatever management skill set they are not exposed to, say they do not realize how to plan the timeline of a particular story, what story to pick up, how, okay, we have picked up 5 stories, which should we start, one should all of us work on one story, they may not be able to get it. So especially early on, they even will not be able to understand. Remember, I'm using will, I'm not saying may. They will not be able to understand how much work to pick up. So, all such work, it's not about only quantitative risk analysis. All such things you have to help your team. Celebrate team success and support and bridge building activities with external groups, something which is many times ignored. Especially the facilitator is a senior experienced people. We talked about the role yesterday. It's like a parental role, and for a parental role you have to be pretty senior to the team, and that's why celebrating team success sometimes can get ignored. So that's something which is really required to motivate the team. So role of the project manager, we talked about that. I'll read this, but let me tell you honestly, I myself do not believe this. Some agile practitioners think the role of PM is not needed. I am one of them. Due to self organizing teams, though I don't agree with the reason, I do feel that PM's role is not required in agile. However, pragmatic, I'm not. Agile practitioners and organizations realize that project managers can add significant value in many situations. Actually, only this statement, if it is isolated, I'm 100% sure that I agree with it. But in agile projects, all this responsibility is shared by three entities, three roles. What work to do, when to do, the team decides. The PO talks about everything that is functional, how to do, analyzing, deciding the definition of done, etc. The facilitator does rest of the jobs, including helping the team in management functions. So why do you need a project manager? You don't need a project manager. That is my argument. I want your attention here. This is something which is purely my opinion. PMIs, if you want to ask, if you get a question, you remember that having project managers may add value to your project. That is what PMI says. That is what the APG says. So, project manager is the person assigned by the performing organization to lead the team that is responsible for achieving the project objectives. As a servant leader, project managers encourage the distribution of responsibility to the team, to those people who have knowledge to get the work done. Then the servant leader is sufficient, right? Okay. Gopal, what's your question?
Not a question, basically, just my thought was potentially the challenge that we see with using agile is when we don't have people taking ownership of tasks. So when we say self-organizing teams require people, the PA taking ownership, the team taking ownership, and then rest of the people doing their part of the job. So Scrum Master is only required to facilitate. Uh, but then that is the major challenge that we have more
That is a
often than
major
not.
challenge.
Right.
Scrum
So
Master is not only facilitator. Facilitating is one of his responsibilities.
correct. And so, ideally, they end up being project managers because, where they start guiding people, what you start taking your task and stuff like that. So, more often than not, I think it's only relevant if they start taking ownership, they really become self-organized in the real sense, which is a major challenge. And the point that you've been iterating, right, more often that we need somebody who's respected and somebody who's senior. A lot of organizations, what they make is they actually
That's
have
true.
dwell roles. They have dwell roles saying, the product owner can be a scrum master or somebody junior, 2 years and 3 years, and you end up being a
I
scrum master.
agree. I agree
Yeah.
because I have helped some organizations transform into agile.
Right.
I've seen that. Like worst thing that can happen is the facilitator, Scrum Master, doubling as a PO, or the Scrum Master doubling as a team member. Both things I've seen. That's not how it works. And what Gopal was saying is, as the project manager grows in experience, seniority, he actually takes a similar. So he doesn't usually work as a servant leader because he's used to having authority. But with that authority, also he guides the team, and that is what is the role the facilitator needs to play. Facilitator needs to have good experience and understanding of the team, understanding of the project. Okay, so with that, now what is it you want to know, Vishali?
Ma'am, one question here. When we talk about project manager role in agile environment, so what we have seen in agile, there is nothing called as a project manager, which you rightly said, right? But is it something PMI conflicting the agile practice itself? Because in agile, there is nothing that they say there should be a project manager. Every time we have those specific roles that we have, we should work in that, right? So I'm
Okay.
just trying to understand that.
Basically, when you are saying there is nothing like project manager in Agile, Vishali, you are talking from your experience with Scrum. Scrum
Correct.
is very clearly saying in the if have you done CSM?
Yes.
So in the learning objectives of CSM, Scrum very clearly says project manager is not a role. So that is what is their perspective. So, and in fact, I agree with that perspective, but I am saying in so many words that it is my personal view. I personally agree that there should not be a role, additional role like a PM. But in other agile practices, no, they never say that there should not be a project manager. In fact, on very large projects, large where there are multiple agile teams, say in the scaled environments, bottom level teams are scrum teams, there has to be somebody who can coordinate between the teams. So it's not only empowerment. Some part of planning, controlling will need to be done. They will not use the word controlling, but that is what needs to be done. So that is where a role which is similar to project manager or product manager, it's a combination, will have to be there. Okay, so they don't call that person, that role, a project manager. That is what I was trying to still say. Scrum very critically says, but that doesn't mean that Agile discourages project manager. Agile is absolutely pure. It says this is what you should think about, those four core values and 12 principles. Based on that, you can have your own policies, your own framework, right? So, I still maintain that project manager is not required, but most of the enterprise level practices will have something which is similar to a project manager. Okay.
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Kedar?
Yeah, I had a question on the same lines because I have seen agile transformations where working on Scrum, they don't say that there is a PM required. They don't say there is a BA or a somebody who has functional knowledge as well as business knowledge or technical like a technical BA required. But then the project needs such people, right? Who so you
Kedar,
alone.
technical BA is not required in the sense they perhaps will say that you don't necessarily have to have a role like BA in your development team. But they're perfectly okay if you want to. Any agile practice
Okay.
would say BA is a role that can be there. Then what happens is within the organization, you start developing your own flavors of Scrum and all, and
Yeah,
that is where it
exactly.
comes from.
Exactly. Okay.
So,
And
go ahead.
yeah, and so that's from that the this side of having different roles. And so if in case like I have seen where there is a dedicated project manager who is working on like cost benefit analysis, value stream mapping, and all of that. But then if there is no such dedicated person working, then who has the uh, uh, responsibility to handle this?
Agile PMO.
Okay, so there is a PMO on top of it. Thank you so
So
much.
then you can also think of like what PMI is saying. Rather than having a dedicated agile PMO, you might want to have an entity which will do all of this management functions. So in other words, what they are saying is true. Project manager will add value. Okay.
Thank you.
So yeah. Okay. Tatara?
Yeah, ma'am, see, when we decide, when we initiate a project, if the project plan itself decides or planned to use Agile or some other methodology,
We'll talk about that. When do we see? Basically, correct me if I'm wrong. You're asking me how do we decide that this is a particular project that we will take up in Agile, and how do we discuss that? How do we decide that this is not suitable for Agile? Is that it?
yeah. That is the one point, and the second point is that the project manager or any so-called who practices this, okay.
Product manager.
No, a project manager or
Okay.
who are responsible to lead this project. What methodology he follows, or he mix up all these based on his a personality or something else. Okay,
It's nothing to do with the personality. Okay, so what happens, what you should ideally be doing is looking at the work that you are going to do on the project as a whole unit, not as a project manager. As project manager, team, customer, what is it that you are going to do? You decide whether the life cycle of the project should be agile or not agile or hybrid or whatever it is. We will discuss how to, not now, but later, maybe next week. But there is a way of deciding whether you should do a particular project using agile philosophies. Remember, agile is a philosophy, agile is not methodology. And the project manager or the facilitator, depending on whether it's agile or it's not agile, will help the team deliver. Now, the project manager, as you said, his nature, his way of understanding the things, that will have impact on how well he manages an agile project. Typically, agile is new, project managers have been there. So, in the organizations that are transforming into agile, the project managers are changing the roles, and typically they should be getting the roles of the facilitators. So early on, it is going to happen that they have it in their blood that they should be controlling the work, controlling the team, controlling the project with so many years of experience. So till they change the mindset, they will do in their old ways and gradually they will change.
Okay.
So teams composition. Now, teams composition, agile team composition is something which is interesting because agile team should, we discussed that it should be self-sufficient team. People, when team thinks about how to optimize flow of value, people become more collaborative, team finish valuable work faster, teams rather waste much less time because they do not multitask. This is something we will talk about a little later. So basically, the teams are self-empowered, so they are more likely to collaborate, to help each other, and they are delivering at the end of every iteration, so they will try to deliver highest value first. Remember that principle number 10. So that is what will always hold good. Simplicity, the art of maximizing amount of work not done. So, or Pareto principle, whatever you call it, so the team will deliver value. What is agile team? Agile teams focus on rapid development so that they can obtain feedback. This is a characteristic of agile life cycle and not agile teams necessarily. Agile life cycle, you have to deliver frequently and you have to deliver value. In practice, the most effective agile teams tend to range in the size from 3 to 9. So smallest. And when we talk about agile team is made up of development team, then the facilitator and the PO. So all of these together, there should be maximum 9. So ideally, it will be only up to 7 people that you can take on the team. No, Jayanti. Ideally, agile teams are co-located in the same team space. What does that mean? The entire team sits together, ideally, of course. What is the benefit? Let's say this is a big hall in which my team sits here. This is one cubicle, this is one cubicle, and I have a 7-member team. So my team sits here. What is the advantage here? Okay, I'm not drawing all of that. The advantage is, let's say this team member needs some help, technical help. He can immediately collaborate, call for spikes with all the other team members. One more advantage is there are dependencies. When the team is working, all of them are working on one single story, there will be some dependencies. Team member number 1 is doing some work, and team member number 5, the work that he is doing, his work depends on what is team member 1 doing. How otherwise, when if they're not sitting together, the collaboration will happen on email or WhatsApp message or phone call. It might not have that good impact as it will be when it is together. When the team wants to decide way forward, like, okay, this is a problem that we foresee, this is a risk for the entire story. So we all of us have to decide together. So for collaborating, this is really helpful, working together. So teams ideally sit together in a co-located place. This particularly together, these are called commons. Then what happens is sometimes it is possible that one of those 7 people feels that for 10 minutes I want to sit quietly and think about some logic that I'm working on. In this bazaar, I cannot do it. It's so much of noise. So for that, in addition to the regular seating arrangements, there are typically small rooms where they can go and sit by themselves if they want some peace, some quiet, need some time to think by themselves. They can go sit there. Once that is done, they can come back to their co-located space. And because of this nature of the rooms, this arrangement is called as caves and commons. So when people want to be isolated, they go to those rooms, they're getting into caves. Otherwise, they are in common. So that's usually the sitting arrangement for people. And the next point is the most important consideration for any agile team. Team members are 100% dedicated to the teams. What does that mean? All the team members that you have should be working only for your product, your team. Should not have shared people, like shared resources working on multiple projects. If The typical tendency is to have testers as common resources across teams. Now I have, let's say, 5 testers, and there are 5 agile teams. The agile teams, let's say this is my agile team. This is one more agile team. This is one more agile team. Let's stop at that. And this is one team of 5 testers or 10 testers. Now what happens is my team has done some work. They want to get it tested. The tester is not there full time on their project. What will they do? They will need to give their work here. A particular tester, if it is assigned to their team, or maybe the whole team, they say, okay, you give the work to us, we will test it, give you back. Now what happens is when I give my work to the testing team for testing team says, Vajanti, I know that your work is important, but so is the thing with other teams. We have a lot of work. We cannot prioritize your work by deprioritizing whatever we have taken in hand. So your work has to wait. So such blockers are to be removed. And for removing this, the best thing that you can do is have entire functionality that you need within your team. That might actually mean that some of the team members may idle for some time. And this is what is totally against the control situation, where we ensure that every team member is 100% loaded. This is not necessarily true with Agile. Instead of ensuring that every person is 100% loaded, remember every person is empowered. They like to work is the basic assumption. So why bother about checking that they're 100% loaded? If they're not loaded, they will enhance their skills if they have some time. So anyway, that will benefit you. So rather than focusing on loading 100% people, focus on having a cross-functional team. All the functionality that you need, you have to have within your team. Imagine that these are three agile teams, and there is one team member who is assigned to each one of these teams. Now what happens? Every day, let us say he works with all the three teams. So he goes to team one, does the work, then comes back and goes to team two, works with them, then rest of the day he goes to team three, works with them. What happens in this situation? In this situation, the team member who's assigned to multiple teams needs to change the context frequently. And if he needs to change the context frequently, he is supposed to be multitasking. That's what he's doing. He's working on multiple projects, so he's multitasking. What happens when somebody is multitasking? When somebody is multitasking, somebody needs to switch the context frequently, and context switching reduces efficiency. Reduces efficiency, you will be surprised to know that the reduced efficiency is about 40%. So avoid that and have that person on dedicated to one team. For this, not now, you might want to do in the break, but I'll tell you one small exercise that you can do, or let us do it now. I want all of you to have a pen and paper. Now I want you to, once you have pen and paper, once I say start, what you are going to do is you are going to write capital letters A to Z one below the other. Then you are going to write 1 to 26 numbers one below the other. Then you are going to write small a to Z one below the other. Three things. Okay, when I say start, you will do that. That's a very well-known exercise to check what happens in context switching. Okay, start. I'm stopping the recording. Okay, or it'll take hardly some time. Let the recording be on. Okay, I want you to raise your hands once you are done. Capital A to Z, numbers 1 to 26, and then small a to Z. One by one. You've done this exercise in the past, Abhishek. So you're a good person to explain it to the entire set of people here. What happens, Abhishek?
Actually, when I done my leadership management from IIM Ahmedabad, and that there is one whole chapter on this. So that time the tutor made us to do this
Context switching.
exercise.
Yeah, it's a very famous exercise. So what happens when you switch the context?
You won't be able to focus on one thing.
Right. Darshan says he's done with writing all. Darshan, you're really fast, huh?
Thank you, ma'am.
So now 2-3 people, and what Sudarshan is done, Rushali is done, Sagar. Okay, good. Now I want you to do the second part of the exercise. What you have to do is you have to write capital A, then you have to write 1, then you have to write small a. Okay, finish the entire sequence like that. Okay, still capital Z, 26, and small z. Start now. Let me see what happens here.
Ma'am, I have done this in the same way.
You've done it both the ways, like both the exercises, or only the second part of it?
So the first exercise I done it in a way that my second one is already done.
Oh yeah, that is not so. In the first exercise itself, you switch the context.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, the whole point in doing this is when you are writing one sequence, capital A to capital C, your mind can focus on, as Abhishek was saying, what is the advantage? You are doing a pattern of work where you are able to focus well. So your efficiency, see, it is something very trivial that we talked about. So efficiency is much more when you are doing one kind of a work. And when you switch the context, you will realize that you need to think a bit. Like, okay, I write capital A. What do I have to write then? Oh, number one. Then what do I have to write? Small letter, small a. So for a split second, but yes, your mind needs to take that flip. And that is what reduces the efficiency. Okay, if you have realized while doing it, you know what I'm trying to say. So if this is a very small or trivial exercise where you realize that you can focus better if you do one task at a time. Imagine what happens on project. So it's always better to have 100% dedicated team. Agile encourages self-managing team where team members decide, okay, not that. Team members in successful agile teams work to collaborate in various ways, such as pairing, swarming, and mobbing. These are group solutions. So typically, the size of these are group meetings. Let us say I want some help. I can sit with one team member and pair of us can discuss my problem, can the other person can help me get my answers, or other person can observe while I'm working and find out where I am going wrong. This is a typical XP is one of the frameworks, XP concept. Swarming, on the other hand, is where entire team comes together to solve some problem. There are, let's say I am stuck somewhere, I don't know how to solve a particular problem, I'm not getting the logic of the story that I'm working on. I call the entire team, so friends, I need help, let us do this together. So all the team would come, all of us would sit together, discuss the problem, and see how to solve it. Doesn't mean that the team is going to give me fully developed, beautiful solution. Right now, what's happening? I'm not able to understand how to solve. So it is like I'm in a tunnel, dark tunnel, and I'm not able to get out of the tunnel. What my team will do is, team will show me, okay, Vajanti, see that light at the end of the tunnel, you to walk there, this is the way, and then they will go back to their work. So depending on the size of my problem, the size of meetings are different, like in terms of hours. Spike typically would be 2 hours. Swarming, which is a little more, might be 4 hours. Again, there is something which I want to tell you is different frameworks will have different size definitions of swarming, mobbing, and pairing, even spiking. So typically, spike is 2 hours, swarming is 4 hours, and mobbing can be 8 hours. But then, yes, your own agile flavor might have different timelines. Like it can say that no, swarming is 1 hour only. So that really doesn't make the time box is not same across all the practices in agile. The
Ma'am, sorry,
yeah,
what is mobbing? Can you just give an example for mobbing?
it see what is spiking? People sit for 2 hours. Mobbing typically people, it's a big problem, so people spend entire day solving it.
So it is the entire team who is sitting on one issue and they are
One
trying.
particular problem. It can be risk identification, it can be finding a solution or to the risk, or it can be a technical problem that the team is solving. It can be anything that the team needs actually. For spiking also. So these are three different types of meetings: spike, swarm, and mob. It's the difference between them is only the time box. Agile roles, we have talked about that, so I'm not spending more time here. Cross functional team members, product owner, and team facilitators. This is one interesting concept in agile teams. As I said just now, a few minutes back, that agile team should be cross functional. So, what I have, let's just say that my team structure is 3 developers and 1 tester. So, developer, 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 and tester. We are in early agile transformation stages. So each one of my developers, they're experts, but they have one single skill in which they are absolute experts. So they are right now called I-shaped specialist. One single skill set they have. So I-shaped specialist or generalized specialist. That is what they are termed as. When they start working together, these 3 developers, each one of them right now is I-shaped. They start working together. Early on, what happens is my tester is not fully loaded because there's nothing to test. What do I do? Shall I not have tester on team? No, I want that tester, and when if I don't get him right now, when I need the tester might not be available. So I don't want to do that. Instead of that, I know that he is a matured person. He wants to work. He wants to grow, and I'm sure that he will engage himself fruitfully. So he will try to learn the skills in that free time. Typically, if he's sitting with all these 3 developers, he will learn a bit of development skills and he will become a T-shaped specialist or cross-functional specialist. Same thing can happen with my developers. When they have a little less pressure, they might learn the testing skills. What is the advantage? If you look at the team structure, I have 3 developers and 1 tester. When there is a lot of load for the tester, you can always say, team, you have some small testing skills. Can you help me so that we can finish the work on time? I don't have to wait for going out, getting additional resource and finish it. So T-shaped resources are encouraged in Agile rather than having, say, 1 or 2 in a large team. You might have who's I-shaped, extremely good skills in only one area. But what Agile would rather prefer is having a T-shaped specialist person, who has one primary skill and some other secondary skills. So
Friends, this is Satish Kamath from Effective Project Management Academy. Many people want to do PMP trainings and they would like to know same questions, different people, and instead of every individual calling again and again on different days, what we have done is we conduct 1 hour introductory session for knowing what we cover in PMP. So in this, please join these 1 hour sessions and you will come to know what is PMP, what is expected while studying PMP, or what are the requirements from PMI side, how to apply for PMP, and all this you will know in real time because this is a real time 1 hour session for letting you know what is PMP, how to study, what benefits are there from PMP, how you will gain from PMP, how much does it cost for you, and how much time you need to spend for this. And also, of course, I will be telling you some simple tips for passing PMP. So this is what is the intention of this 1 hour session. Please join today on the following, call us on the following number.